Hey guys, it's Alec Torelli, and welcome back to the hand of the day. Today's hand comes from Marios, who is playing a tournament with blinds of 61-20. It's a small tournament, but there's only 6 players at the table, so it changes the dynamic a little bit. People are going to be more aggressive, and this is a blind versus blind battle, which is really, really tricky because both players could have any 2 cards, so it changes the reads that we need to be making to make effective decisions. So the small blind limps, we opt to check our option in the big blind with 8-5 offsuit, and we go to the flop, to the flop, to the flop, to the flop. The flop comes 9-8-5 with 9-8 of clubs. Great flop for us, we flop 2 pair, but the board is very vulnerable to a lot of cards coming which either kill our action or complete our opponent's hand if he has any sort of equity at all. So it's a dangerous board, even though we flopped one of the better hands that we could possibly have. On the flop, our opponent bets 180, which is a decent sized bet. He bets 3/4 of the pot, and we opt to make it 600 here on a raise. I think that this is a spot where people will almost always raise with this sort of hand here because it's one of the better hands they could have. But you will also be raising here with a lot of draws because it's a great spot to apply pressure to your opponent because he's in a really tough spot if you raise here. Even if he has something like 2 pair, he's going to be calling you out of position, but there's so many bad cards that could come for his hand on the turn that 2 pair really shrinks up here if you're the guy out of position. So I think raising here is really good with a myriad of hands, both with some draws and with value hands like this, because it just puts your opponent to the test and you take control of the hand, and you can play your hand accordingly in position on the turn in the river. So great raise here, and I also like the sizing. I think that raising on the bigger side is good. It prevents him from 3-betting, I feel like, and it also just inflates the pot where you're in position with a strong hand, and it really makes him in a precarious spot because he knows that this pot is going to get really big really quick, and he's out of position in a completely vulnerable spot. So good job raising here. One note on that subject, I think you should be calling here some of the time to just kind of so that your calling range isn't too weak. Too often people are only raising when they have strong hands, which completely decimates their calling range. It means that if you're always raising here when you have something strong, when you have a weak hand, your opponent could just keep betting because he knows that you have nothing. So just make sure you're calling enough of the time. He can't just barrel away freely against you on the turn in the river. So to our dismay, our opponent 3-bets here, which makes the hand a little tougher. Now suddenly our 2 pair sort of shrinks up because he should never be 3-betting a 1 pair hand here. He's only going to be 3-betting the flop with hands that beat our 2 pair or draws. So he kind of puts us back in the same spot that we put him in, where now we have to fear his hand, and we don't know whether he has a big draw or a big made hand like a straight or a higher 2 pair or a set. And the hand becomes really tough for us to play because now we don't know which cards we want to come on the turn. If a scare card comes, then we're in a really tough spot, and if a scare card doesn't come, we're still fearful of his range being stronger than ours. So and now it's a tough spot for us to play, but I really don't like our opponent's sizing here. I think he should be 3-betting a lot bigger. Any hand that we raise the flop with is going to call this size bet, and we're still strong in the sense that we're in position. So I think we should be calling here, and our opponent, our hero in the hand, the guy whose hand I'm reviewing, does call, and that's a great spot because we can play in position on the turn, and it doesn't really matter what he has. We're getting a great price to call, and we're going to absolutely call and see the turn here. So we go ahead and call the small, almost min raise on the flop, and we go to the turn. So great job playing the hand so far. I think you made every single decision correct, and I think you did it for the right reasons because your bet sizing and your play is in tune with the logic behind the hand. So really, really good job. The turn comes to Deuce of Hearts, and this is a great card for us. Of course, it's not a scare card. It's pretty much impossible. This helped our opponent's hand, and we're still in a great spot. We're in position. We could see what happens now. We're also really deep stacked here, so we have a lot of room left to make decisions on the turn in the river. Our opponent goes ahead and bets. about 3/4 the pot. He bets 1450. And this is a really big bet. I think he's going to be betting big here almost always because it's a draw-heavy board. So he's going to want to either get us out of the pot if we have a draw or force us to pay if we're chasing when he has a made hand. So I always expect a big bet here. But again, from our point of view, this card didn't change anything. We could be folding the turn here if it's like a 7 or a 6, especially a 7 or 6 of clubs, a 10 of clubs, something like that. We could be folding those turns. But a deuce of hearts is just too much of a blank. We got to call here and sort of hope he shuts down on the river. Hopefully we improve, and definitely hope a scare card doesn't come. We got to just get more information about the hand. So we go ahead and call, and now we have pretty much one pot-sized bet left on the river, and it's going to be a big pot. If he shoves here, it's going to be a really tough decision on a blank river what to do. And if a scare card comes and he bets, then of course we're in a really tough spot. We pretty much have to fold, even though some of the time he's going to be bluffing certain scare cards. Now the river comes in ace of clubs, which is sort of the card of death for us. Pretty much it completed any flush our opponent has, and if he does bet here, make a huge bet, we only pretty much have a pot-sized bet left. If he does go all in, then it's going to be really tough for us because he could be bluffing with something like Jack 10, but even still, it's a really hard call for us now that the flush card came because he has to be worried about us having a flush. So for him to continue betting means it's likely he has it because it's hard for him to bluff here given how we played the hand. So I really don't like this card. If my opponent bets, makes big bet, I'm probably going to fold, and I just have to give it to him. It's just too many hands completed here on the river, and he shouldn't be bluffing enough of the time given how our range looks to justify calling here with this sort of hand. I think we have a flush enough of the time that we don't need to call with bottom 2 pair here. But to our elation, of course, our opponent checks, and now, it's really likely that he ended up having a value hand that now he's scared that we have the flush. Against really good opponents, though, you have to be careful here because they will be checking flushes to make their hand look weak. They'll be checking flushes so that you have the opportunity to bluff with your misdraws. If you have something like Jack 10 or you have 8-7, you want to turn a hand into a bluff. Good opponents here will be checking. So I think that a check doesn't necessarily mean weakness. The more amateur the player is, I think the more often than not it is weakness because I think better players will be more likely to check with a flush here than amateur players. So you got to know your opponent a little bit here to know what he's capable of having, what this check actually implicates. It's a little hard for me to give a specific read. My general read would be that he has a bluff catcher now. He has a hand that's not strong enough to bet, but he has some showdown value because I think that's just the most likely way he would play this hand. Now the question is, do we bet or check? I think this is probably a clear check here. I think that there's not many worse hands our opponent could call with, and I think that he still could have a flush and be planning on check trapping us or check raising or whatever. We decided to bet here. We bet a little over the pot. We went all in, which is, if I do bet here, I bet smaller. I really dislike this bet. I think it's much too big, and I think too often of the time our opponent's going to fold worse hands. I don't think we're bluffing enough, and I don't think he calls with worse. I just think that he doesn't have worse that often to call with. If he has a bluff catcher, it's like a straight or a higher 2 pair or a set. So we're really hoping to get value from a 1 pair hand here when we shove. And there's just not that many that he could have. You got to replay the hand in your head. Like, what worse hands could he call with given how he played it? If he has air, he's going to fold. If he has a stronger hand, he's going to call. And there's not that many 1 pair hands he could have. I guess he could have like ace-7 or something like that, and he's going to like check the river. But I mean, I just think it's way too thin to shove here, especially for the size of the pot. Your hand looks like a flush, so I just think it's too thin. That being said, what do I know? You were right, I was wrong. Your opponent calls with Jack 9, which makes a very ambitious, let's just say, hero call, and you go on and win this monster pot. But sometimes, don't be only fooled by the results. You got to think about what's most likely to happen here in this situation if you ran it out 100 times, not just this one time. So I think even though we doubled up here, I think this river bet's a mistake. It's a little too aggressive, man. And I would just urge you to heed with a little caution here. That's it for the hand of the day. I hope you liked it. If you want to see more of these videos, more hands of the days, or send them to me, click subscribe right here, and I will see you guys next time. Cheers.